I don't know why my face doesn't show up yet, but anyways, I'm very happy to join the WILPF Congress. As some of you remember, I was international president from 2011 to 2015, and I keep being a member of WILPF from, I've been involved in the organization for 38 years, and currently I am the president of WILPF Costa Rica. We've been doing some work about environment and women in action women in action before the climate change. So you may wonder, what does it have to do what is happening in Costa Rica with WILPF US Congress? And I'm sure that we will find some common areas, common features that sharing makes sense. And we, as much as we can, try to keep all these topics in our section. And there has been some experience and collaboration with Aimará, who I'll be interviewing. Aimará is forestry engineer, and we ran together seminars all around the country using Zoom about that topic, what women can do before climate change, how we can take actions and effect changes. And although, like you have here in the Congress, there are so many critiques about the rhetoric, about the UN system and how corporates take over the narratives, still, we are aware of that, and we can do what we can, and take the opportunity of these international instruments and laws and conventions, and do what we need to do where we are. So we cannot wait until changes in the language or changes in the legislation or changes in the policy. We need to start doing changes where we can at local, regional, and international level. So with that in mind, we want to share our experience. And here in the screen is Aimará. Oh, no, not now. But Aimará, you'll see it in the interview. I'll be sharing a video that we already recorded, and after the recording is played, you'll be able to make questions, and Aimará will be there, able to make responses. So we don't have that many, unfortunately, forestry engineers that are female. So her experience is very, very important and very inspiring. So here it is. I'm going to share the screen and to play her video, okay? Okay, let me see. Okay. The head of the office of the Ministry of Environment in San Jose, which is a sub-region.
Can you increase the volume, please?
Okay, hold on a second.
You need to start the screen sharing again, and this time click on the volume. Click on the sound, which is on the left-hand side at the bottom.
Click on the computer sound.
I did, so it's coming again.
Okay.
So here is Aimará. Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. We're going to begin the interview to Aimará Espinoza Ulate, who is an engineer on forestry, and she's currently the head of the office of the Ministry of Environment in San Jose, which is a sub-region in charge of the largest towns in the country. So I'm going to ask Aimará about her experience, how she decided to study forestry, and what was her experience about during those years studying at the engineering school and graduating there. ¿Por qué decidió estudiar ingeniería forestal y cómo fueron sus años de estudiante y posteriormente en ese campo?
De las cosas más maravillosas que puedo tener, quien me enamoró de la ingeniería forestal fue mi abuelita materna, Ella pasaba horas conmigo en el patio de ella enseñándome los árboles que crecían en su patio, por ejemplo, el roble sabana, el jícaro, por ser de Guanacaste, y ahí fue donde me enamoré de la ingeniería forestal.
Okay, she says one of the most wonderful things that happened to her was her time as a kid with her grandmother, who taught her about trees, like roble, oaks, and some others that are typical of certain area where she comes from, Guanacaste, which is a very dry part of Costa Rica, but it's very, we have a lot of forest and variety of trees. And she said that's how she fell in love with forestry and learning about that.
Tradicionalmente se conoce esta carrera como de varones, y de la experiencia personal sí puedo comentar que mi abuelito materno también me preguntaba siempre por qué estudiaba eso que era de varones, dado que conllevaba mucho trabajo de campo, el estar fuera de la casa por un mes y el poder estudiar es el trabajo con las comunidades y el conocimiento de cómo poder desarrollar iniciativas con las mismas comunidades.
She says that one of the things that she had to face is that because engineer has been seen as a career that is predominant of men, her grandfather used to tell her why she would be studying that, and that she had to consider that the career involved a lot of time outside the house, because they had to do lots of field work, and to go to spend sometimes even a month with communities to be able to understand which initiatives and carry out initiatives in the communities.
Los compañeros sí hacían comentarios, pese, digamos, al rendimiento académico, que en varias ocasiones, digamos, yo sobresalía sobre el resto del grupo, al sacar, por ejemplo, preguntas que solo yo tenía buenas, digamos, en los procesos más difíciles, digamos, de la carrera, como era el aprovechamiento forestal o lo que son inventarios forestales, y era poco valorado, digamos, el hecho de ser mujer y solo yo, digamos, tener esas preguntas o esos exámenes correctos. Los comentarios que una tenía que escuchar por parte de los compañeros era que nos iban a contratar a las pocas mujeres que habíamos en carrera como secretarias, porque para eso era lo que íbamos a funcionar.
Yeah, in the interaction with other classmates, even though lots of time the women, or even in her own case, she had the best grades in topics such as, how to best use the forestry resources or inventories, and, certain topics that she excelled over them. Despite of that, she had to put up with jokes about, she and other girls in the class, the few girls in the class, jokes about that they would only get jobs as secretaries, dismissing or not respecting the fact that they were getting good grades.
Aún así, finalizo, digamos, de estudiar el bachillerato en el año 2000 e inmediatamente tengo la oportunidad de ingresar a trabajar cursando los últimos días de los cursos de licenciatura. Entonces empiezo a trabajar en el ministerio. Por no tener experiencia, la plaza que se tenía era para ser recepcionista, trabajar en el Ministerio de Ambiente y Energía.
Yeah. once she graduated, she got the first degree in the year 2000. She immediately started more courses so that she can become an engineer, but there was an opportunity to work in the environment ministry. So she took it, but the position was only as a receptionist in the ministry. But still, she was very happy to get into the institution that she really aimed at getting hired.
Posteriormente, se da la oportunidad de que existe una necesidad de una ingeniera forestal a nivel regional del área de conservación Pacífico Central, y es así como me traslado a finales del año 2000 para fungir por 5 años en esta área de conservación.
Okay. Well, after that, she, gets an opportunity to finally be able to work as a forestry engineer in a broader area in the San Jose region. Aymara, tal vez podemos pasar ya a la pregunta como funcionaria, ya en el puesto. ¿Cuáles han sido, digamos, institucionalmente y como persona, los mayores retos que has tenido que enfrentar? I'm asking Aymara, as an officer and as a human being, as a woman, which has been the most important or significant challenges that she has had to face?
Los mayores retos han sido el hecho de que la toma de decisiones está por lo general basada en puestos para varones, donde no es muy frecuente el hecho de abrir oportunidades a las mujeres. De hecho, en este momento somos 2 jefaturas subregionales de 24 entre áreas silvestres protegidas y oficinas subregionales. El reto además ha sido,
I'm asking her to post. Yeah, she says that the most important challenges is that as the head of an office, she has to make decisions with other partners, which in the majority, those who held that kind of positions are males. So out of 22, only 2 are women who have the position to take important decisions in the leadership of the institution.
Eso conlleva diferencias que uno observa en el trato a nivel del comportamiento masculino con respecto a nosotras, las mujeres. Por lo menos mi otra compañera y yo, en un espacio de toma de decisiones que se llama el comité técnico, hemos estado conversando entre las dos porque hemos tenido situaciones de índole de acoso sexual y laboral, y esto conlleva a comentarios sexistas dentro de estas sesiones de trabajo que se ven normales, sin embargo no lo son. La razón por la cual sé esto es por una situación de violencia doméstica que también soy sobreviviente de violencia doméstica. Salí de mi casa hace 3 años con policía, y eso ha conllevado un proceso de crecimiento y de reconocimiento desde mi ser como mujer y como ser humano para saber qué es la violencia.
Yeah, she said that some of the part of the challenges is being in a context in which constantly the partners, the male partners, make jokes as the content that constitute sexual harassment, and she and the other woman that are in those positions have to have meetings together to discuss how to deal with this all. She also says that she's a survivor of domestic violence, and that has made her understand many things and grow as a person, and to be able to understand the extent of violence against women. And the jokes that sometimes happen are seen as natural, but they're not.
es relación de violencia. Tengo un niño de 9 años, el cual estoy educando en compañía de profesionales para evitar replicar, digamos, estas situaciones de violencia, en especial cuando sabemos que como seres humanos se aprende desde el ejemplo, y eso es uno de los retos personales, por lo menos, que yo tengo.
With the person, she has that relationship in which there happened domestic violence. She has a son, a boy that is now 9 years old, and she is working very hard with other professionals to make sure that some roles, violent roles of masculinities are not replicated on him. So she feels one of the major challenges that as a person she has. Podemos hablar de los retos como profesional. Es muy importante, claro, las dos cosas.
Sí, de hecho, ahora como retos de profesional, una de las cosas que más me apasiona es el hecho de crear espacios, como mencioné, para trabajar con las comunidades, y uno de los elementos más importantes que hemos detectado a nivel institucional es el hecho del trabajo con los gobiernos locales y todas aquellas personas que son tomadoras de decisiones, en especial desde el punto de vista de la mujer que participa, digamos, en estos espacios, es el empoderarnos a la hora de crear iniciativas que puedan desarrollarse.
As a professional, one of the main challenges she's facing is to continue her work, to work with communities in issues of environment. And she's been fascinated about the possibility of the potential initiatives that is when they work with local governments, with municipalities, and with all organizations. And in those organizations to work with the women and with those having to take decisions at that level, and to see how women in those initiatives with that participation empower themselves.
Sí. A raíz de el marco legal que viene cambiando a nivel mundial, le ha dado la oportunidad a Costa Rica de ir incorporando lo que tiene que ver con el cambio climático y especialmente lo que es el Acuerdo de Río de Janeiro en el año 92.
In the area, the international legal framework that deals with climate change, Costa Rica has had the opportunity to insert in that, to take initiatives, in particular with a document of Rio, which the Rio Agreement that took place in 1992.
Esta siembra un acuerdo que es retomado por Costa Rica, al igual que por muchos países, para incorporarlo en la legislación ambiental. Y una de las cosas más importantes tiene que ver con participación.
The agreement in Rio of 1992 includes the countries have to make changes in their legislation. So Costa Rica used that to make changes, and one of the important changes to protect environment is the involvement, the participation of communities in what is related to environment protection. So the participation of the community, their involvement is critical, is important, and should be promoted and protected.
Esto conlleva a uno de los temas que se incorpora en la ley de biodiversidad, que señala que el Estado no es capaz por sí solo de cumplir y garantizar el hecho de conservar la biodiversidad.
This brings us to the fact that according to that agreement in Rio, which was also taken in the law of biodiversity that Costa Rica approved, is the recognition that the state cannot by itself guarantee the protection for the environment. So that they really need to make possible the participation of peoples, organizations, communities.
De lo que significa el uso y conservación. Uso y conservación, que es conocer para poder usar, y eso tiene que ver con el desarrollo. Y uno de los elementos importantes tiene que ver con la participación de género. ¿Por qué?
Okay. So one of the very important concepts in that law is that the use and conservation of resources. The use requires knowledge and conservation participation, and in that area, then there is also very important to bring into consideration gender perspective.
Esto por cuanto los objetivos de desarrollo sostenible, a los cuales también Costa Rica se compromete, señalan no solo, por ejemplo, la conservación, sino que de los ejes más importantes tiene que ver con la equidad, incorporando el papel de la mujer.
Okay. All of these concepts are also connected with development. And in that regard, the use of conservation and the development objectives also connect with the concept of equity, of equality and equity. And then the concepts and the policies that have to be with gender perspective and gender inclusion are very important.
Porque el papel de la mujer conlleva a que dentro de la escala económica que se ha desarrollado, el impacto mayor sobre la pobreza tiene que ver con las jefas de familia.
Okay, because the impact of the role of women in development, and considering all this and analyzing with the gender perspective has led to understand that the impact of some policies affect in a differentiated way, in a particular way, the women. It has to do with poverty.
Eso ha conllevado el hecho de que las estrategias de desarrollo a nivel nacional, regional y local se incorporan estos objetivos de desarrollo con las comunidades y con la participación de las mujeres.
This has brought to the fact that the strategies of development have to involve, all these strategies that are discussed and taken at a level, regional and national, regional and local, have to involve women.
Esto ha permitido que a nivel internacional se hayan desarrollado por estas mismas políticas o acuerdos también, como el Acuerdo de París, que tiene que ver con el cambio climático, el hecho de poder desarrollar acciones desde el nivel local, pero con impacto a nivel regional y a nivel nacional y a nivel internacional.
Yeah. This all has led to the situation that even in international this fora and in international agreements such as the Paris Agreement, it has been understood that policies and strategies, although done internationally, have an impact and have to involve participation locally, regionally, and nationally, and have connect with all this international analysis, including the participation of women. Yeah.
Eso tiene que ver lo que hemos visto en las noticias, tanto a nivel de China, Alemania, Costa Rica, más recientemente con el impacto en Turrialba, que son acciones que si no tomamos medidas, vamos a seguir teniendo impactos y tenemos mayor vulnerabilidad en aquellas regiones donde el cambio climático vaya a dar esta mayor cantidad de impacto sobre el desarrollo, ya sea económico o de las mismas comunidades.
Yeah. Yeah, what we have seen in the news, whether in China and Germany, Costa Rica, with all these situations related with natural situations connected with climate change, that the impact is taking place and is affecting the communities, on these floods and situations that are impacting people's lives at all levels.
Es por esta razón que lo que se incorporan son acciones para buscar soluciones que sean más reales y que nos lleven a tener un mundo más justo y sostenible, como mencioné con la equidad incorporada.
These are the reasons when we see the effects of climate change that, put us into the perspective of the need to take specific measures to ensure that there is equity and that we can have a sustainable world.
Para eso se proponen con proyectos internacionales financiados por el WILPF y por GIZ con el Fondo del Ministerio de Ambiente y Energía de Alemania, el desarrollar iniciativas o acciones soluciones basadas en la naturaleza.
And now she's talking about international cooperation that is taking place in the case of Costa Rica with funds from the German International Cooperation, the Gender Ministry of Environment, and funds from the Costa Rican Environment to take initiatives that are named solutions based on nature. So it is development of initiative based on nature, taking into consideration nature.
En especial, Costa Rica, por lo menos donde yo trabajo, ha tenido una serie de también jurisprudencia que nos ha obligado a tomar acciones para mitigar las diferentes afectaciones que se están realizando. Un ejemplo, el hecho de utilizar el agua para las diferentes con fondos internacionales para
Okay, so Costa Rica is, through international cooperation, is taking initiatives like, for instance, making sure that the use of water, whether for housing, for plants, they are trying to use or to develop the treatment, to have treatments of water, and they are doing this also through international cooperation.
lo que tiene que ver con mitigación del incremento en las temperaturas, se trabaja a nivel de un programa de pago de servicios ambientales en las zonas rurales y en la ciudad con estas iniciativas como por ejemplo huertas urbanas para garantizar la seguridad alimentaria, techos verdes, paredes verdes.
Pause. Okay. So there is all these efforts to mitigate the impact of climate change. So one is, this ensuring the proper, as I said before, treatment of water. They have the plants, and now they're saying that in rural areas they have what they call some funds to pay people, to pay owners of land that don't have much production for environmental services. So this is very important because they are paid to conserve their forest, their land as it is, and to ensure that it's preserved rather than exploited massively. And in urban areas, they do some initiatives such as urban farms or urban gardens for food security, green roofs, and green walls. So, to teach people how to make the best of their small areas they have, developing greenery and also foods.
Otro de los elementos que están utilizando los gobiernos locales es crear zonas públicas con mayor cantidad de árboles, las riberas de los ríos, el plantar especies nativas que sirvan para mejorar la biodiversidad, paisajismo, lo que tiene que ver con conectividad para que las especies, por ejemplo, aves, lleguen a alimentarse de estas especies.
Okay. Other initiatives that are happening in especially at local level, local government and municipality, is the creation of spaces, public spaces where they do planting or forestry. Also, where they plant native trees, also to protect the rivers and along the rivers, planting and ensuring that there are plants that will serve to feed the fauna, the animals in that area, and also to create connectivity to ensure that the animals will be able to reach such areas. So this is part of some of the actions that she's been coordinated with organizations and municipalities.
Otro de los temas es el hecho de, por ejemplo, desarrollar cantones productivos que promuevan de nuevo activar la economía. Por ejemplo, puedo citar Montes de Oca, que quiere desarrollar jardines con especies para producción de miel para exportar hacia China, por ejemplo, y ojalá con grupos de mujeres y con las mismas comunidades.
Okay. See, other initiatives have to do with certain initiatives in some municipalities to develop economic areas that allow them to increase their productivity, like in a certain case, more production of honey, and to have landscaping that is, of particular interest in that county and that town. Mostly is to use initiatives that are related with somehow with food security, but also to connect environmental protection and economy growth that also will help people of low income and especially women in those communities. So the municipalities are pretty keen into that, and some of the programs she's been involved with.
A raíz de estas diferentes acciones y trabajo con grupos locales, es que se han podido dar algunos cambios para incorporar más de lleno en la ciudad, en los diferentes proyectos con fondos internacionales y a nivel de contrapartidas a nivel local, también de los gobiernos locales y de las diferentes instituciones presentes.
Yeah. Based on this work, on these actions and work with local groups, they've been able to incorporate international cooperation in concept and proposals that promotes the local development. So this is, and also that the cities also are very actively getting involved in environment in all these initiatives at the local level.
En especial en Costa Rica, por el deterioro de la mayor cantidad de personas que están localizadas en el Valle Central, que es el gran área metropolitana. El deterioro de los recursos ha conllevado a esta toma de decisiones de volver los ojos a la ciudad.
Yeah, in Costa Rica, the deterioration of natural resources, especially in the cities and rivers, and parks in many areas, has forced her ministry to concentrate on to focus on ways to protect, to clean the rivers, to protect the rivers, and to make the cities a very important part of all of these efforts to counter climate change, protect the environment.
Esto conlleva también una serie de aspectos de índole legal que me llevó en el 2007 a estudiar una maestría en legislación ambiental para comprender nuestro marco legal y poder aplicarlo.
All of these efforts also have a juridical component, So she in 2007 decided to take a master program on environmental law and to understand more the juridical framework and to apply it. So there's a lot of regulation that has to do with urban development, and there's a lot of interest. So, knowing the law and learning about the law was very important for her. So she's been into that. So she has this master. She graduated on that. Okay.
Aún así, esto conllevó una situación, creo, que tiene que ver con la parte del respeto hacia una como mujer. Y a nivel institucional, los cuestionamientos más bien han sido de mis superiores para todo este trabajo, por diferentes razones, en especial porque ellos no son los que están, digamos, dentro de la primera línea de estas iniciativas o desarrollándolas en campo. Me parece que eso ha despertado cierta envidia a nivel de ellos, y la presión, digamos, de ahorita estar ejerciendo una de las pocas jefaturas subregionales a nivel país ha conllevado a una situación tensa en mi parte de tener que estar recibiendo situaciones por parte de ellos por no tener apoyo, digamos, a la hora de desarrollar estas acciones.
Mm-hmm. Her preparation, her work, and her success, has created her a lot of difficulty with her bosses. All of them are male, so there seems to be some sort of tension that maybe, because she knows her work, she knows the laws, she knows the communities. So there is some sort of like an envy on the part of the bosses, or the part that don't support much, but create a lot of tension in her daily work, because she's the one that is connected on the practical area, in the day-to-day work on a daily basis with the communities and with the application of the law, and being a woman in one of the most important offices in the country with the majority of the population facing a great diversity of challenges and initiatives to provoke changes. It's been a very tough situation for her.
En especial porque han sido cambios de paradigma a nivel institucional.
It has implied shifts of paradigms at an institutional level, so it hasn't been an easy process.
De las cosas maravillosas que sí puedo comentar, que siguen enamorándome de mi trabajo, es el poder empoderar, el poder transmitir el el conocimiento que tenemos, el poder acompañar las diferentes iniciativas locales y el ver cómo se apropian y cómo se gestionan a nivel de lo que quiere una comunidad. Esos son los cambios desde el nivel local para lograr impactos mundiales.
She said that one of the most wonderful things that she's, been able to experience is to see the empowerment of communities and being able to carry out different initiatives and see how at the local level, organizations, women feel all empowered and they are able to produce changes. And these changes, little by little, also can have, from a local origin, it can have also an impact on the international level too. So she feels she continues to be in love and enthusiastic with her work.
Sí.
Creo que lo podemos dejar aquí por el tiempo.
Okay, perfecto.
Bueno, I just want to thank Aimará very much for sharing all these experiences and knowledge, and also wish her success in the continuation of her work. Quiero agradecer a Aimará por compartir esas experiencias con nosotras y desearle mucho éxito en la continuidad de su trabajo. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Okay. And I just hope that the WILPF members that are able to listen to this interview, will be understanding of our accents, but hopefully it will give you all some better understanding of the challenges women face in certain areas of their career, but also the possibility and the reality that many good goals and initiatives actually happen, and women are being part of that and are leading to make those changes. Thank you.
Hasta luego. Y gracias.
Gracias a vos, corazón. Chao.
Chao.
Thank you, Adilia and Aimará. Are you willing to take additional questions?
Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay, if people will put their questions in the chat box and start your question with the word Q or question all in capitals. And if you like, Adilia, I can read the questions aloud as they come up.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Orly notes she's so sorry that Aimará was subjected to domestic violence and sexual harassment. How is she using her experiences to help others and showing that there is a way out? And if you would translate the question to her, please.
No, que lamentan que hayas tenido que sobrevivir violencia doméstica y hostigamiento sexual, que cómo estás usando tu experiencia para ayudar a otras mujeres. Ajá. Aimará, no te oigo.
Aimará, you are muted.
Ya.
Bueno, mejor.
Ok, gracias. Sí, lo que hago es compartir la experiencia en foros y trabajando a nivel institucional con incorporar dentro de nuestras políticas, por ejemplo, charlas que tengan que ver sobre género, que no se dan a nivel institucional y que por ley sí es una responsabilidad de incorporar. ¿Verdad, doña Adilia, que estamos trabajando en eso?
Sí, yeah. She says that, she uses her experience when she has the opportunity in some fora, and also in her, in the policies, in the work in her office, making sure that certain topics that by law, they are supposed to be incorporated in the policies of the institution, but it's not really happening. So she's making sure that that happens, that there is training on some of these issues at institutional level,
Thank you. Janet Slaughter also asked if one or both of you could explain a little more about some of the policies that are going on connected to all these topics in Costa Rica.
Yeah. es como si pudiéramos hablar un poco más de todas las políticas o los programas, un poco vos lo dijiste, pero fue muy rápido, ¿verdad? Los programas y cosas que se están haciendo para enfrentar los temas de cambio climático. Okay, I will summarize because I've been working closely with Aimará and we've been talking about this. But some of the things that she does, she's government meetings with municipalities in kind of committees that not only involve the governmental people, but also committees in the community, local associations of neighbors, you know, some women organizations, different kind of associations of civil society. And some of the programs, like you said, are aimed at mitigating like temperature rise through, you know, developing gardens, also having productive gardens in some communities so that there will be some food in public areas, training and teaching people about having green roofs. In some community, there is also this program that it needs to be coordinated with the communities that is with a big fund that the government has to pay for environmental services. So people that has some like small farms and don't have much money to make them productive, but you know, they may decide to do something that may not be that very productive, but may harm the environment. So people get paid to live, you know, to protect their forestry, something like that, not to exploit the trees. So they get every year they get some payment for that. So this is fund for environmental services. It's a big program that Costa Rica has, and also been training other countries on how to handle that. That's not only benefiting San Jose head office, but other areas in the country, including the indigenous community. This is a more recent program, but it's taking place. And a lot of the programs also have to do with water, you know, the how to provide water to communities and make the best use, and also to use rainy water for reuse. So there is efforts in that area. And also in replanting public areas, parks, roads, things like that. No sé si me olvida algo, Aymara, porque usted entiende, pero no lo habla.
Sí, efectivamente.
Es un buen resumen.
Sí.
Si se me olvida algo, usted me lo dice.
Sí.
Okay.
Yo le agregaría tal vez, doña Adilia, ahí lo que mencioné sobre las paredes verdes, techos verdes, y las soluciones basadas en la naturaleza, que están, como dijo usted, desde el nivel local, regional y nacional. Eso es lo que hemos estado trabajando, digamos, a nivel de Ministerio de Ambiente.
Yeah. Yeah, there is this concept of nature-based programs, you know, so that's a big problem in the ministry. So they use the protection of the river areas and, you know, helping the animals to access food and all of these things.
Thank you. I am aware that in many parts of the world where people are desperate for income and live near natural wealth, there are more and more efforts to make it worth their lifestyles, worth their living, to protect the area rather than to simply not be able to make any living except by harvesting illegally trees and animals. So it sounds like Costa Rica is working on that.
Yeah. Even Costa Rica had a program to have this kind of environmental services with Peru. Through some international cooperation. So Peru is kind of adopting this program, and it has a big process, you know, but for people to obtain the benefits. But it's kind of Costa Rica has been pioneering in that area, you know, in making these funds accessible for owners to keep the forestry.
And there was a question about childcare in Costa Rica, since Aimará works.
Eso es otro tema. El tema de las guarderías y el cuidado de los niños. ¿Cómo está eso en el ministerio?
Sí. Ahí, ¿qué específicamente qué quiere? Porque eso sí no le comprendí.
No, ¿qué programas hay para garantizar el cuidado de los niños a nivel de instituciones?
Bueno, a nivel institucional no. Usted sabe que el programa que ha venido desarrollando es el de este que está trabajando
La red de cuidado.
Sí, las redes de cuidado. Y por ejemplo, sí indicarles tal vez que el programa de bandera azul sí se trabaja a nivel de oficinas, a nivel de mismos centros de educación y que incorporen, digamos, también estas adaptaciones al cambio climático. Pero que estas redes de cuidado...
No tiene nada que ver con el cuidado de los niños.
No,
No.
no,
No.
no.
Okay. No, it's very limited what is done in that area. You know, there is a law that is the caring network, and in some areas it works a little better, but at the public service institution is very limited. Yeah, it's a lot to do in that area still. It's a huge challenge.
Another question noted that Aimará is very skillful in her work, but Cricket Doyle wanted to know, is there any chance that she will be able to start some other kind of business with other women to continue doing this kind of work?
No, que bueno, que vos tenés muchas habilidades y la pregunta es si vos vas a tener la posibilidad de hacer trabajo con otras mujeres para fortalecer o continuar este tipo de trabajo con otras mujeres.
Pues diría usted, esperemos que sí. Estamos trabajando en eso.
Sí. Yeah, she said that absolutely, that she's working on that.
Are there associations that support cooperative businesses or collaboratives?
Y si hay asociaciones que apoyan colaboraciones o cooperativas.
Sí, sí, de ambas. Lo más importante tal vez que pudiera citar es lo que yo le comentaba del comité local del María Aguilar, que incorpora 5 municipios y que son instituciones públicas, organizaciones, cooperativas, así como mencioné, la parte de producción de miel en Montes de Oca, con nuestro amigo, de hecho es con mujeres cooperativistas, entonces estos grupos organizados están enfocados, y sí, para la toma de decisiones también.
Y mucha participación de mujeres.
Relativo, todavía estamos trabajando en eso.
Pero lo de las abejas sí son mujeres.
Lo de las abejas son mujeres, un grupo de mujeres por lo menos.
She mentioned that there is a river that is called Maria Aguilar, and there is the committee of the Maria Aguilar River, and that includes 5 counties, and along those counties there are associations and cooperatives. And one of the programs they have is to produce honey, and the producers of the honey are predominantly women. So there is this involvement in creating income, but also in involving all these associations in the protection of the river. And still, it's not that women are leading all the time, but there is a good participation, and not necessarily at the leadership level.
Patricia Wells wanted to bring up a different topic from this one, and she was just curious if it's safe for either or both of you to express an opinion, what you think of La Señora Henrietta Boggs, and tell us who Henrietta Boggs is.
Okay. Yeah, there is no problem. Costa Rica, it's not perfect, but we can feel very confident that we can express our opinions without being afraid of any persecution for that reason. Henrietta was the wife of ex-president Figueres, as far as I remember, and it was quite a while ago since Figueres was, she wasn't in a public office, but she was very supportive of him. I think she was from the U.S., And it was at the time that he made a lot of important decisions, like the elimination of the army. It was Jose Figueres, her husband, who took that decision in 1945. So I don't know much exactly, because she wasn't much of a public figure, or very publicly, although she was very close to Figueres, and he made good decisions at that time when he was with her. So that's what I can say. Sí, una de las esposas que tuvo José Figueres, doña Henrietta. Pues, creo que fue en el periodo que ellos estuvieron casados que él abolió el ejército. Entonces, I'm assuming she was a good influence on him. Yeah.
Sí.
Gracias a todos ustedes dos. Fue muy interesante para nosotros. And I must say, for those who have been paying attention to the subtitles, and if you haven't, you'll want to watch the recording, the subtitles that the artificial intelligence has created for the Spanish language portion are very hilarious and not related to any meaning in the Spanish whatsoever.
Uh-oh.
So I'm glad you were able to translate, Adilia, and most of the time the subtitles were able to make a little sense out of what you were saying.
Okay, well, I try to do my best. Sometimes it's very difficult to do the simultaneous translation, but I try to catch the essence of what Aimará was saying. To me, the main point is, as I've been connected to some of the, we WILPF members are very critical and very sometimes very radical. So we want to see very deep changes, and that's good and it's important. But we cannot wait until something huge changes. The system will not change from one day to another. And to me, it seemed very important to have these experiences of how, even if small, some changes can be happening, although we have to, at the same time, we're struggling with all this mess of the institutions, the bureaucracy, the slowness of legal changes, and the sometimes hypocrisy of the discourses in what really happens in real life. But I think women leading in places, like Aimará heading an important office, having women prepared and with knowledge in forestry and different sciences, and being able to be in those positions and connect with the communities. And it makes a difference the way Aimará can communicate with the organizations at the local level, at governmental level, and really push for changes and for have these funds used properly. One of the terrible things that happen in many of our countries is the corruption, and how some funds that are meant to help communities are a lot of time used improperly. And when we have some leaders very committed, and women, most of the women that get into that with the passion, people like Aimará, they really made the best use of the funds, and really push and do on a daily basis all these changes. So I'm fascinated by the fact and the hope of having more and more women in those positions of leadership in institutions, and especially institutions that have to do with environment and to mitigate the catastrophes and the disaster of climate change, and to really push for changes there. So I have been very happy to share some of the presentations, and very happy for the opportunity to share with you and the opportunity you have given Aimará and me to be with you this afternoon. Thank you very much. I love you all, WILPFers.
Thank you both. Gracias a usted, Aimará, para su coraje.
Gracias.
And thank you, Adilia, for being an international president in the past, and for continuing with WILPF into the present.
Sure.
And for this evening, this concludes our WILPF Congress programming. We will be continuing tomorrow, Monday at 5 p.m.